Hey guys, this is D-Train with Raised by Sharks, and today I'm going to be giving you a video on the elements in Monster Hunter World. Elements have always been a significant part of Monster Hunter's combat system. They provide extra damage, especially on weapons like the dual blades, sword and shield, or the gunner weapons. Elements can also be very situational, as some monsters are completely resistant to certain elements, but also other monsters may be hit by extra damage for a specific element, and there's also lots in between. This chart was created using the in-game hunter's notes that list the levels for each element on all the monsters in the entire game. You may notice different totals for monsters on each element. That's because of a couple monsters like Lava Seoth, Bareth, and Jiri Totos who have different states, like they're hardening or they're covered in mud, which causes them to be counted twice on certain elements of this list. Red on the chart represents resistant to an element. Orange represents somewhat resistant to an element. Yellow represents means they take normal damage from an element. Green means they will take extra damage from an element. Now, which element is the best? It's really up for debate. Fire is pretty much considered the worst just because it applies to the least amount of monsters total, but the other four are pretty much right there with each other. It's kind of all depends on what you're fighting at the time. But just let me know down in the comments which one you think is the best based on the numbers on this chart. Now, how does this help you in a fight against a monster? Well, it also depends heavily on your weapon of choice. So if you're a greatsword user, it's not as useful for you as it would be for someone running a bow or a lance or dual blades as mentioned before. Typically, faster weapons are more reliant on it, and slower weapons just tend to focus more on the raw damage. But it's not always the case and kind of varies from weapon to weapon. In the current state of the game right now, the elementless jewel is very popular. It's going to be hard to beat in certain cases, but elemental weapons will still always have their place in the game. That's pretty much it for the element video, guys. I'll be putting out a similar video on the statuses in Monster Hunter World soon, which is a little bit more interesting just because they're a lot more similar and there's a bigger debate on which status is more useful in terms of group fight or on single player. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to Raised by Sharks.